This is the 3 a.m. conversation that you really want to be a fly on the wall for. This is the Sleepless Knights podcast, hosted by Mr. Lobo of Cinema Insomnia and my producer Paul Sanders of BESTOW TV. Those who listen know it's unlike all those other podcasts. This one is for us night people. We obsess on pop culture, we talk movies, talk shop, get weird, do interviews, answer your questions. We take you to the airport and to the laundromat. Okay, well, sometimes we get lost, but we promise you that we will go where no podcast has gone before. Dare you put down as little as $1 American and support our next show. We're getting it ready for you now. All you can hear for $1 or more an episode. Please join us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Sleepless Knights Podcast. All one word. SLEEPLESSKNIGHTSPODDcast. Only one D in podcast, even though we emphasize the odd in our pODDcast. We want normal people with real jobs to find us. Sleepless Knights Podcast on Patreon.
Attention Sleepless Knights. Thank you for consuming this OSI 74 product broadcast, live from the Black Knight satellite. For optimum performance and safety, your host, Mr. Lobo, asks that you please listen to these instructions carefully. When in a hospital or other healthcare facility, observe the restrictions on the use of electronic devices. Switch off before boarding an aircraft to prevent interference with communications systems. Do not operate this device in the presence of flammable gases or fumes, chemical plants, or where blasting operations are in progress. Always listen hands-free while driving a vehicle. Failure to observe these instructions may lead to immediate termination. It's time now for the show to begin. Thank you. Have a very pleasant evening.
You're not dreaming. You're listening to the Sleepless Knights pODDcast. Emphasis on the odd. I am your host, Mr. Lobo, and this is Paul Sanders, my co-host, who is still floating in space in a space pod.
I come up with a new term because since I'm the pantsless producer, I'm America's favorite astronaut.
I see what you're doing.
I'm going to get shirts made.
Well, that'll be one more feather in our cap, in our arsenal to take over. Anyway, we hope you're doing great. We're doing fine. You know, I feel like we kind of need to sort of relax a little bit, kick off our sandals and go nutsoid with this episode. Because I feel like we came back a little hot, because we'd been gone for so long. We were sort of making up for lost time, talking about all the crazy things happening in the world and, nerding out on topics. But I feel like there's some basic things that we haven't really talked about, because we've been gone for 2 years we were gone with the podcast.
Actually, in actuality, it's about a year and some change.
Year and some change? When was the last podcast that we did?
Give me a second here. Live at RetroCon, episode 30 was recorded on November 12th of 2018.
Wow, November 12th, 2018, and then the first newest one was April of this year?
April 13th of 2020, not a Star Wars reboot. Even though we did do a small correction. In the Buff kind of disappeared off of all the web crawlers, all the iTunes and Stitcher.
What happened with that? Because I thought that episode came much earlier, and then I remember someone who was listening to the podcast and they said, we don't hear Dixie enough. And I said, oh yeah, well there's the In the Buff episode where we were playing the card game. And they're like, I've never heard that.
Yeah. Apparently during that episode, I ran a commercial for Casino Royale, not the new one, the old one that a lot of people like to shit on and don't really care for. Apparently, MGM really likes their where were we at? Lincoln Loot.
They're chimp bucks. They're Lincoln Loot.
Yeah, they really want that cash. So we had to go back and the high cancel of human consumption. They banged the hammer on us and they removed it from all stations.
We recorded a spot, I guess, to sort of fix that gap and explain why that part of the show had to be redone, right?
Right. So we lifted out the Casino Royale spot, and we dropped in the High Council for Human Consumption
Yes,
spot.
the High Council for Human Consumption, the concept of that, which we ended up using in our reboxing video that we posted.
I mean, it apparently we have our own cinematic universe. You know, Marvel's over there. They wish they had what we had. We have what, the Lobo verse? Is that what we call this now?
The lobotomy verse. I don't know. You're only working on 15%.
How about the pantsless verse? Can we do that? Call it that.
Pantsless verse? We'll have to. I don't know. Maybe it'll be like George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead versus John Russo's Return of the Living Dead. We could split it off in two different directions, two different tangents.
So, I mean, to have to satisfy the High Council for Human Consumption, I mean, do you think that they're going to flag us for talking about the Abes and the Apes and all this stuff that we've been talking about for the last? Well, I don't want to have to be taking all that stuff out.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that recently because we've actually started to make some money with the podcast, and we're very close with YouTube. We've actually have enough subscribers to start monetizing the Mr. Lobo YouTube, although we need 4,000 hours of actual listenership in within 12 months. But what I've been learning about YouTube is that they have been, and this will probably start happening everywhere, is that they have been actually taking away monetization for videos that are talking about certain topics. So perhaps we shouldn't talk about the Abes and the Apes, even though it's something that's affecting everyone in the world. We should maybe have some sort of veiled way of talking about that so that we don't get our monetization, because we're just starting to get to a point where we can make some money with this stuff, right?
How about we use a code word? How about the McShits?
That's a little bit too on brand, Paul. How about chronic diarrhea?
Well, yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty good. I mean, everybody deals with chronic diarrhea. That's a day in, day out thing, and everybody has to deal with that. And
it would explain the run on toilet paper. I think that let's run chronic diarrhea up the flagpole and see if anybody salutes.
I mean, we'll try to run that chronic diarrhea as close to the bowl as possible.
You want to stay inside. You want to stay 6 feet from everyone. If you've got chronic diarrhea.
If you have chronic diarrhea, I mean, that squirts 7 feet, so you might want to go a little bit further. I guess it depends on whether or not you have pants. But
depends, or if you're wearing your Depends. That's the thing is that. So I guess we'll try, instead of Abes and Apes, we'll do chronic diarrhea from going forward. So let's see if everyone will know what we're talking about.
I mean, I've been watching shows, and it's just kind of sad. It's like, some of them are small news channels that are trying to report on chronic diarrhea. Some are just gaming channels that are reporting on chronic diarrhea, and they have to. All they have to do is talk about chronic diarrhea, because if they don't, then they end up losing their monetization. And I mean, that's just shitty.
Well said. Speaking of monetization, we're finally turning the corner on some of this stuff. I mean, I think it's funny. Do we get in trouble for not complaining about not making money? Because I feel like every podcast is about complaining, but we've actually had some positive gains in our world with our shows. The Sleepless Nights podcast, we started, we set up a Patreon account, patreon.com/Sleepless Nights podcast. And, people who are super fans of the show, people who want to see us record this show week in and week out, have been giving us $1 per episode. And with one podcast, we've made more money than, ever on YouTube. But even with just Anchor and the placement of Anchor, and they're giving us a penny every time the Anchor spot is heard.
One shiny Lincoln
every time the Anchor spot is heard. And I think even with Anchor, we've made more money right?
Now, are we allowed to talk about this? I mean, High Council's not going to come after us because we're talking about money.
They could, huh? Because you tried to put links on our YouTube for our Patreon and our various other revenue streams, and they just none of that works, right?
None of that works. You can't do that until we reached our full goal of monetization, even though it's
and
not.
What's the goal of monetization again on YouTube? It's like 4,000 hours in 12 months.
4,000 hours in 12 months and 1,000 subscribers. We're over 1,000 subscribers. We just don't have the listener hours.
I mean, all your frustrations with YouTube, Paul. I mean, that was probably a big part of you taking a break, right?
Right.
YouTube is still there for us. Well, they're not really there for us, but we're still there on YouTube. And our content is there. But it seems like our big wins have not been on YouTube. I've been doing on Facebook. I've been doing on the weekends live watch parties on the Mr. Lobo's Cinema Insomnia fans group page. And, on the watch parties, I've been talking about the show and how we're raising money to make new episodes. And people have been donating money. They have been, we had someone buy my spinners that I've used on the show. Someone bought my old rocking chair that I've used on the show for $1,000. So all of this is going to go towards making new episodes. And, there aren't that many people watching comparatively to, on a Saturday night, we're doing a watch party in, I'll give you an example, like in one town, someone watching my show on broadcast TV, there'd be 20,000 people watching at 3 a.m. But, on YouTube, when you're at a watch party, there's only like 50 people or 60 people. I think we've had 70 people at the most. And I know a lot of people who are in broadcasting, and I won't name any names, Carlos Borloff, but they will say, I don't really want to put on a show unless there's at least 100 people watching. And the way I feel about it is this is not really a substitution for a broadcast experience. This is a substitution for meeting your fans in person at a convention or at a film show. Instead of sitting behind the table at a convention somewhere talking to fans, I'm sitting at my computer talking to people who support the show. So those 70 people who are in there are super activated and super appreciated. And I appreciate them and they appreciate us. And we've got a good thing going. So I really enjoy doing the watch parties on Saturday nights. I feel like those have been very successful and have definitely helped us enormously towards making new shows. And then I'm very excited that, again, living the dream of actually bringing, even if it's just a few dollars, bringing in money from making the podcast is definitely a dream come true for Paul and I. And so we thank you for that support. So that part has been going really good, and we've been moving towards making new shows. I'm writing episodes, shooting these live segments for the watch parties has definitely given me an idea of how we can make the show here at home, even though there's simpler episodes with all of the chronic diarrhea that's happening in the world. We can still make Cinema Insomnia episodes. So that's really exciting. And that was something I wanted to talk about since that's something that's going on. But there's a lot to talk about with all of us. And you always ask, how's Paul? How's Miss Mittens? How's Aaron? And so, in the past, we've gotten together on our show or on this show, in the laundromat and in the diner. And I was thinking we could try to meet at a diner, all of us. But with the whole chronic diarrhea situation, meeting at a diner, which is something that we used to take for granted, is not so easy to do. So we were thinking about going to the Stargate, right, Paul?
The Stargate, was that car wash?
Stargate, diner, car wash, strip club. formerly a Burger King.
That's right. Yes, that's the one.
We were going to go to that diner again, but right now during the chronic diarrhea pandemic, they have a drive-through for the strip club, right, Paul?
Yeah, and I mean, it just basically, they stick their ass out, and you swipe that credit card right through the crack, and you instantly get crabs. It's the
crab and crack cash and carry.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
The special. It's the number. It's the number.
God.
It's the number 2.
Well, obviously, you can see why we chose not to go back to that diner again, even though they have nice Burger King glasses that you can still get. But the Duke of Doubt warned us against it. So we decided we would go to perhaps Aunt Jenny's Route 41 diner again. Well, like when we met with Eric Miller at that one podcast, we had a diner experience there for that podcast. And Aunt Jenny's diner has got a really weird thing going on during the chronic diarrhea outbreak. You have to call them an hour in advance for your meal, and then you tell them what you want, and then they put it, I don't know, just smush it into a cannon and fire it, and then they send you coordinates of where they think it's going to land, right?
Yeah, isn't that like that sounds like geocaching for your meal? I don't
Sounds
know.
like a real hassle. So you got to go find it, and that just seemed like a mess. So
didn't Aaron have an encounter with a bear when he tried to find his meal?
Yeah, he did, but it wasn't an animal.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So what that leaves us with this new place. This is the newest thing in VR technology. It's the virtual restaurant at the end of cyberspace. And so we were going to, all of us, and when I say all of us, I mean Paul, Aaron, Dixie, myself, and Miss Mittens. We're all going to go meet at this virtual diner at the end of cyberspace. Although Paul's already in outer space, so he's just going to be meeting at the virtual diner at the end of space.
Now,
right
in the virtual diner at the end of cyberspace. Now, you know, in the books for Guardian of the Hitchhiker's Guardian of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
They, the space ended, the galaxy ended, that was the thing. Now for this, do they run magnets over top of the hard drive so that they erase the virtual space?
I think they erase the virtual diner, and then the next time you come in there, everyone forgets who you are and what you ordered.
So basically Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, or like any other diner I've ever been to. Anyway, so we're going to get suited up here. I'm going to put on my my gloves and my goggles, and I think Aaron is still out in Amish country. They have a shed on the edge of their property where they keep their technology. I guess it's okay. Paul, you know a little bit about this, right?
I'm assuming. I mean, with the whole apes and apes, I mean the chronic diarrhea, they probably are a little bit more relaxed when the chronic diarrhea situation, and probably allow a little bit more tech
because of this technological. Yeah, it's a more technological world, and I think it's a more kosher, if that's the right word, kosher for the Amish. They're automatic Amish or automaton Amish or Amishtrons now. I don't know, but they have these little sheds at the edge of their property where they keep their high tech stuff. And so Aaron is going to be in his shed with his fake beard and his bear, wearing his goggles, and he'll be talking with us from that location. Dixie is in her super groovy nuclear fallout shelter meditation chamber, and she'll have her VR headset on, and will be dialing herself in from there. And then Miss Mittens is actually at the Stargate diner's car wash / strip club. I guess, I don't know. They've got some sort of mimosa breakfast thing, but she's going to be at 2 diners at once. Well, she'll actually be at that diner that we don't want to go to, and also driving a car and wearing, I don't know, is it bad to VR and drive? That seems like a big mistake. And then Paul, you've got yours right on the Space Pod. They actually have a VR set on the Space Pod that you can wear. And then mine here at OSI headquarters, now this must be from the diner because it's just greasy and it smells like French fries. I mean, honestly, I don't want to put this on my face. I think I'm going to get the eye herpes.
It's funny because I already have eye herpes, so I'm more than willing to share this to the next person. I'm going to jam these headsets back right on my face. And
oh, God, Paul. Seriously.
I mean, what can I say? I mean, I got it from having to fight space herpes. I mean, those things are huge. They're really big. And I mean, I fired all my bullets. I mean, I ran out of bullets firing at these things. I had to throw the Papa Nana Giorgio potato chip thingamabobbers, whatever the hell they're called. And I had to throw it at them and stuff. And I mean, they're so big. Have you ever seen the movie Critters?
Yes, Paul, I have seen the movie Critters.
There's no other point. I just wanted to know if you watched Critters. That was it. I'm good.
All right. Well, fine, Paul. Well, you know what they say about eye herpes. It's better to give than to receive. And on that note, we are all ready. We're suited up here. And, oh, Paul, I'm seeing a flashing red light. Is there something wrong with your VR headset? Are you okay up there?
Yeah, it appears that I have a loose wire. I'm going to have to probably bail on you guys because, you know, if anything that all these movies have ever taught me is that if you die in VR, you die in IRL, and I just don't want that to happen.
Wait, Paul, IRL? Seriously? I mean, can't you just say in real life? Is it like LOL where people? So we could type LOL, but in real life you just laugh out loud. You don't say LOL.
I mean, we've been saying VR this whole time. I mean, why don't we just say virtual reality? I mean, let's be poetic with it, okay? Maybe I can say, if you die in VRL, you die in IRL.
VRL, virtual reality life.
Yeah,
that sounds like an insurance company, Paul. The opposite of virtual reality would be practical reality, right, or something like that.
All right, fine. Take 3. Ready? 3, 2, 1. If you die in VR, you die in PR. Is that better? Does that work with
I guess so. We've killed our PR long ago with this show for sure.
Why don't you, Dixie and Aaron, just talk about it yourselves while I get to...
Paul, are you okay? Paul? Well, Paul, if you get it sorted, pop in and join us, okay? All right. Well, I guess we're going to dial ourselves in, and we will see you at the virtual restaurant at the end of cyberspace.
There's a little place where people gather to enjoy the banquet of life.
I get a date with Carol Heathrow.
She is dead.
It's the diner. And what they really want most isn't on the menu.
Go on. Eddie's giving Elise a football quiz. If she fails, the marriage is off.
And if she passes, it's 2 more days to the thing. Marriage.
You're a virgin, aren't you?
Technically. Come on.
You miserable creature.
It's a slice of life.
Did you turn into such a thing?
With a touch of spice.
Better put the damn sheep down.
And a little love.
I was admiring your horse.
Were you?
A few beers. A few tears. A few great years.
You happy with your marriage or what?
Beth is terrific and everything, but...
Always got the diner.
Yeah, we always got the diner.
They were sharing good times that soon became old times.
My prayer. Left side, Heaven on Earth, recorded by the Platters for Mercury Record, color of the label maroon.
Nothing could be finer than eating at the diner. It's open all day and cooking all night.
This is Mr. Lobo. I've got my headset on. Gosh, this is like Ready Player One, but it's like, I don't know, Ready Table for One. I'm waiting on Dixie and Aaron, who should be winking in here any minute. I think I see some forms here appearing in the diner. And, oh, yes, hey, looks like it is Aaron Lane and Dixie Delamorto Lobo.
Howdy.
Hey.
And Paul should be here. He's having some trouble with his headset, a loose wire or something. So hopefully he'll just be popping in
Typical
soon.
Paul.
Oh man, you don't have to bust his chopsticks that.
It's virtual. He doesn't even need to put on pants. Still can't be bothered to show up.
So here we are at the virtual diner at the end of Cyberspace. I know that Aaron wanted to be at the end of the universe.
As long as the universe ends, I'm good.
Oh boy.
Nice nihilist meal with Aaron. So anyhow, this is sort of like us sort of all getting together. Oh, Miss Mittens is here. I see her popping in right now.
Rotten.
Well, she always has like nicer equipment than everybody else.
Share some of that flask, damn it.
I think Dixie. I think Miss Mittens and Aaron are going to end up drinking each other
to death
under the table.
That's what they both want.
Oh boy! How come all my producers are suicidal?
I don't know.
Is there a reason for that?
I mean, I have thoughts.
You know,
I feel like there's a common denominator joke to be made.
Oh boy! Yeah, I'm the common denominator, driving everyone to the brink. It's been a crazy year. We've been away from the podcast for a year and some months. Not actually 2 years, as I thought initially.
It feels like forever.
It does feel like the world. It's
a totally different place.
It's like every episode of Sliders happened.
Oh God!
I feel like Back to the Future.
Do you think we can get back to our original squeaky gate?
I don't think so. No.
Oh God!
And then Biff stepped on a butterfly. I think everything happened. I think that somehow Biff took the phone book from Bill and Ted.
Bernstein Bears.
Yeah.
Shazam. What is it? Kazam. Kablam.
Shazam.
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 The Sinbad movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
We all saw that.
Yes. Sinbad somehow was Captain Marvel. That was how bad it was at one point.
Yeah.
And there's the explosive diarrhea and murder bees or something.
Oh yeah.
Nicolas Cage in a bear costume.
I was told. I can't remember. It was in the chat, but it was someone said that murder bees were just murder hornets were just killer bees with a thesaurus. I thought that was pretty funny.
Seems legit.
Clever.
So I don't know where we want to start. I guess we should mention that Aaron is living with the Amish now in Pennsylvania, Dutch country. Hopefully we can steal you back from the Amish. But I mean, you came all the way
held
out
captive because of some nonsense to do with Abraham Lincoln beards. I didn't follow all of it.
It's like that movie Witness. Except for Aaron
it's
is
more witless.
Witless. Aaron's Harrison Ford. He's about to open a can of whoop ass at an ice cream
But Aaron,
joint.
why in God's name would you be out here in Pennsylvania instead of in California, where all the sweet money and movies are being made?
I don't remember.
How much have you been drinking?
Not enough.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
A few less than I need at this
you
point.
and Miss Mittens have not been good influences on each other. We've been.
Is she among the Amish also?
No, Miss Mittens.
They'd eat her.
Yeah, they would. They'd make her into a soup.
A salad.
Yeah.
Soup, salad, and breadsticks. Actually, I have eaten Amish cuisine. They do not eat salads.
No, it's all yellow foods.
All the yellow foods, which is quite nice.
And cornbread and
multiple
corn
kinds
mash,
of
chicken corn chowder.
Gravies.
Oh yeah. Potatoes too.
Potatoes, yeah.
Butter.
Variety of different cheeses.
Yes, right.
All right,
cheeses.
I think we've covered the Amish food.
I think they have wineries.
Yeah, I don't know if the Amish do they?
Wineries?
I thought I bought a bottle
well,
of
there's
wine
there's like
there's a lot of touristiness.
There's real Amish and there's like tourist Amish, right?
Yeah.
being held captive by the tourist
Amish. Yeah. That's a shame.
This is an amusement park. You can leave whenever you want.
This is Dutch
Actually,
Wonderland.
can you leave? Yeah, no, it's Dutch Wonderland. Yeah,
This is a wonderful cell you've got me held in. This is a liquor store.
sir. And we've asked you to leave.
So, I don't know if the waitress is ever going to come over here and take our order. But
I think Miss Mittens ate her.
Oh, fantastic.
With the way of Aunt Audrey in the alternate timeline.
But, we haven't really gotten to catch up with everybody, or the viewers, I guess not viewers, but listeners.
Yes.
Podcast listeners have not got to catch up with.
No, those are the people speaking.
With all of us.
Oh, dang.
We're the podcasters.
So
Whatever.
I want to hear about it. I want to dig deep. We've already
cuts.
burned half of this segment already. So what do you
want to know?
Well, Dixie, what have you been doing with yourself?
Been in a bunker.
I know that.
I built my conspiracy bunker because of the irradiated scorpions above ground. We've gone full Damnation Alley down here. We've got cockroaches.
Yeah.
We've got scorpions.
I know that the Landmaster has not had an oil change.
Oh
in a
no,
long time.
that shit is kaput. I think I got a recall notice in the mail for
We did get a recall notice in
on
the
the
mail.
Landmaster.
So we've got to somehow get that repaired. We're going to have to get an
So
oil
join us on
change.
Patreon.
Yes,
so that we can get an oil change.
patreon.com/cinema insomnia. You've been doing a lot of
Sleepless
painting.
Nights. This one has its own
Oh,
Patreon.
yeah.
Well, yes, that's true. But Dixie does work on. I guess you do now. You're on
I'm
this
on
show.
the podcast.
So, yes.
So give us your money.
Sleepless Nights podcast Patreon.
I'm saying if you're plugging our Cinema Insomnia one, might as well plug the other two.
Yes, at
Yeah.
OSI 74, or actually Outer Space International Patreon. All three of them go toward feeding hungry artists.
Yes.
Like us, namely. And helping us make things. Now you have been. Speaking of Future Noir, we were in the Future Noir Lounge, Future Noir's Insomniac Lounge, talking about cyberpunk.
Yeah.
We did 2 cyberpunk parties since the podcast has
2019 was the year of Blade Runner.
Yeah, Blade Runner happened in 2019. And as a New Year's party, we did kind of a dress-up thing where we dressed up our house as sort of a futuristic East meets West neon-clad funhouse. And then we invited people to come over dressed up in sort of
It was a
future
costume
people
party.
clothes. Yeah,
It was delightful.
it was.
We had a foil unicorn show up. We
Giant
had sexy replicant ladies. We had several men dressed as Blade Runners.
A lot of trench coats.
Mostly trench coats. We'll say like 85% trench coats at this party.
And what was interesting is so many people were like, I would have paid to go there. I would have paid to have been at this party. Oh, Aaron took some amazing pictures.
Oh, yeah.
At the Future
that
Noir.
was really the selling point for people online. They saw the pictures and are like, how do I get to do that?
So we ended up renting a space in Bethlehem. Bethlehem, if you don't know, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. You need to be specific.
Jerusalem.
Yeah, Jerusalem. We moved it to Jerusalem, of course.
We
Holding a Blade Runner party in the Holy Land because they love their Blade Runner.
We found a manger and we had a little party.
I mean, they crucified Roy Batty, right? Got the nail through the hand. We went ahead and
Roy
did.
Batty was at our party. The costume.
Yeah, that guy. So we decided to do. We rented out a place in Bethlehem.
It was a
PA.
gorgeous space.
Now, if you don't know, Bethlehem, PA has these giant steel stacks that
Gorgeous.
look like the beginning of Blade Runner. You know, those things belching flames at the beginning.
Yeah.
And downtown Jerusalem still has all this.
Jerusalem.
Downtown Bethlehem.
Now we're all messed up.
So where are we? Where in the world's Carmen San Diego? They have these stacks, the steel stacks, and it looks like it's very industrial downtown. So anyhow, they've got
and
this,
they chose to keep them up. They use them as beautification instead of tearing them down now that they're abandoned.
Yeah.
So they have them all lit up, gorgeous at night.
And then nearby to this,
there's a space called National Sokol Lodge?
National Sokol's Lodge.
They are a fraternal order?
I would say kind of like I would say like a club for...
Yeah, there's like a bar, bowling alley.
It's an
and
awesome
then like
space.
a ballroom upstairs.
The
it's
ballroom
a cool place.
is, I believe, built in the 30s.
29, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, 30s.
Gorgeous. Like, the whole thing is wood, wood walls. There's a little kitchen. There's a bar. It's wonderful. I loved the space. As soon as we saw it, I was like, this is where I want to.
And Chris Severn, who is
party.
a new friend that we met at RetroCon, he showed us this place. And we
went bowling.
We went bowling with him. We went bowling with him, and we talked about doing a Blade Runner party. And he said, "Have you seen the space upstairs?" And then when we checked it out, we went, "Oh man, this place is
perfect.
This place looks like it's from the 30s. We could dress it up, and it wouldn't be like a brightly lit." Every convention is the same, right? A bunch of banquet tables and fluorescent lights. We could actually stage the space to have a sort of a cinematic kind of immersive experience.
And we had like visuals of cityscapes projecting on the walls and some kind of like neon sign type writing that was like projected against different walls.
Yeah.
And then the lighting was all mood, like different colors.
We had Chapman Studios bring in a bunch of props from their science fiction movies.
Bunch of sci-fi props were there, and Aaron was running projection, and so we showed a movie.
Yeah, and there was the mocap face thing that Joe had set up that was really crazy. Or John Dimes is like disembodied head floating, making faces.
Yeah,
out
this
There's a
thing
little
just,
Max Headroom.
Exactly, this thing just turns you into a Max Headroom. And then Dixie was selling like vintage clothes.
I had compiled a bunch of very Blade Runner-esque thrift finds, and I was selling them for thrift store prices. I was trying to, costume people, maybe, some people I figured might come and want to dress up their outfit a little bit. And that did well for us.
And then we had Jesse administering the Voight-Kampff test.
Yeah.
In Do Androids Dream of Electronic Sheep, the book, and in the movie Blade Runner, they have an empathy test to determine whether you're an android or a human. And we had a imitation of that where you would sit down at a machine and the charming Jesse C. Herman, otherwise known as Cosmonauti from OSI, also on Cinema Insomnia as the real Seven Girl a million times.
Yeah.
It was funny when Aaron was editing episodes, he's like, okay, now who's this girl? Like, no, that's Jessie again.
Oh, who's
she
this
just
girl?
saw a different wig.
Yeah.
But that kept happening.
It happened 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. Delightful.
What's the name of the real Seven Girl? That's Jessie again. It's easier to remember now that I've met her.
We have a hard time getting ladies to show up for the show sometimes. I don't know why that is. Am I creeping them out?
I don't think so. I just think that comedy's a hard sell.
How does Borloff get like 20 ladies?
He's got all the charisma. He rolled high for the charisma.
Yeah, like in California, I could get us turn out like Borloffs, but when you're out in Amish country.
I
guess that's true. I guess
we get some hot Amish gals.
We're very fortunate that people will drive 2 to 4 hours to be on our show.
Yeah.
And then that I think is the thing that is...
Thank you. Shout out to Jesse and Roxanne.
Especially, yes, and Crystal.
And Crystal.
Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Emily, yeah. Everybody coming out here. All of our lovely ladies.
Yeah. OSI 74 is in the middle of nowhere in a lot of ways. And somehow we're producing, and it's much to the thanks. And my gratefulness goes to Dixie and Aaron for doing so much amazing work.
For our indentured.
Yeah, exactly. I just keep cooking them breakfast and they keep making art.
Thank you for that.
And then the fans bought me a laptop because mine blew up.
Yeah. Yes.
And we're going to talk more with Dixie and Aaron right after this.
This is Mr. Lobo, your movie host for Alpha Video. Did you realize that Alpha Video is the leading manufacturer and marketer of budget-priced classic movies and television shows on DVD? We have over 4,000, that's right, 4,000 active titles available on DVD, and we maintain aggressive release schedule, very aggressive. I mean, we're a little mean about it sometimes, maybe pushy. Maybe mean is too strong of a word, maybe a little pushy. But there's so many mamby-pamby distributors out there that aren't aggressive enough in their DVD distribution. We're tilting the balance the other way because we want to make sure that you're getting your DVDs, you're getting your 4,000 DVDs on time every month. So thank you so much for supporting Alpha Video, and check us out at oldies.com.
You're listening to the Sleepless Nights podcast. We're here in the virtual diner. During the break, our virtual waitress, she's probably working from home, I guess, wearing her own VR headset. But our virtual waitress came up and took our order. I, of course, ordered a stack of pancakes, warm syrup, black coffee. Dixie, what did you have?
Got a eggy sandwich, chocolate milk.
Eggy sandwich and chocolate milk. And then Miss Mittens was in the bathroom, but Aaron ordered for himself and Miss Mittens, right? And
yeah, we're both getting the same thing. It's the Wells special.
The Wells special? Like Orson Welles?
Yes. It's 2 porterhouse steaks for 2.
Jesus.
A whole pineapple, a pint of pistachio ice cream, and a quart of scotch.
Jesus. My God. At least you don't have to drive home.
And man ate that every day.
Wow. That explains a lot of things, honestly.
It's a wonder he lived as long as he did. And now what's the Elvis special?
Oh, God.
That's like a fried peanut butter and jelly sandwich with bacon on it.
That is an Elvis special.
Oh, no, it would be peanut butter and banana sandwich.
Banana sandwich.
Yeah.
But I was referring to his 3 a.m. snack.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a little different than the special. But, yeah, Elvis hired his own chef that he had working from his home, who would, at 3 a.m., would make him a whole cherry pie and wake him up so that he could eat the whole pie and then go back to sleep.
God.
That's the survivor guilt.
That's the dessert order.
Yeah, no wonder he died on the commode.
That's the survivor guilt that he was feeling. He was eating his feelings.
Long line of great heroes that died on the commode, like Admiral Snack Bar.
Admiral Snack Bar. On Cinema Insomnia, we had a... that was a Paul thing, on the commode, right?
Yeah.
So on Cinema Insomnia, we had a character that dies off screen called Admiral Snack Bar. We were kind of making fun of the newer Star Wars movie.
Kind of.
Well, we were very directly making fun of the newer Star Wars movie where they just dispatch the Admiral Akbar character for seemingly no reason. Oh, that character you like? Yeah, he was on a ship that exploded and he's dead.
Yeah, he died.
And so we just thought it would be funny to just have this character off screen.
We hype up all episode.
Hype the whole episode that Admiral Snack Bar is going to help us make our snack on the show. And then...
he died! Which that was like a bit... You, me, and Paul were all like harping, firing back and forth for like weeks. And it's just that I do the stupidest voice, so that's why I
it could have just as easily been Paul, but yeah, Aaron did the stupidest voice, and Paul in one version of it said on the commode, which we had to keep into the script.
On the commode.
Well, you don't have to volunteer that. His family might be watching. But we were before we took our order or put in our order, we were talking about Future Noir and doing an event together, and it's interesting because it's kind of like making a movie in a different way, where you're planning it and you sort of have a story that the event is communicating. And you've got actors who are playing people in that event. The only interesting thing is the audience is also participating in it, because there is no atmosphere if nobody shows up dressed up.
Yeah.
But the other thing about it is that, maybe in the and of course we're not talking about the Abes and the apes taking over the planet. We're actually saying chronic diarrhea now in place of that. But when when this whole crisis happened, and is happening still, when chronic diarrhea is still all over the place.
Right.
I don't know if we're going to... It's going to take a while for people to warm up to, at least I think, warm up to these conventions with 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Maybe smaller events like Future Noir might be a thing that we may be doing more and more of with different themes. Like an Ed Wood show would be really fun. A Lovecraft show might be fun. You know, and other themes, right?
Yeah, I
think you had talked about like doing a Star Wars Cantina one or something like that too.
But we're not going to say the Star Wars word because we don't want. Please don't sue us, Disney.
War of the Planets.
Yes, the War of the Planets party.
Yes, Italians.
Crappy Italian
Star Wars Cantina.
I actually had more fun at Future Noir than pretty much any convention I've ever gone to, with the exception of maybe Wasteland Weekend. I do like an immersive event. I thought everybody who came played along. Even the people who came and weren't in costume had silly, funny reasons for why they're not completely dressed to the nines like everybody else. So, I mean, at least there was effort put in, even on the part of the people that maybe couldn't afford to, you know, buy a trench coat at the Goodwill and pretend to be a Blade Runner.
And we're hoping to do another one.
Yeah.
And then you're doing some paintings now. You were thinking of maybe having an installation at the show?
Yeah. I'm trying to do like I don't know how many paintings go into a gallery show because I've never done one, but right now I'm starting with 5 paintings that have a similar theme, similar color palette, you know, all noir, like techno noir.
You're taking a lot of inspiration from pulps and things like that, and movie
pulp
posters.
Art, yeah, robots and beautiful women.
And gangsters and tough guys.
Yeah.
And futuristic buildings.
All the good stuff.
All the things that make life worth living.
It's true.
Aaron has been doing a lot of work on the channel, an enormous amount on the channel.
I think we're up to 820 items on the channel now.
That is quality content.
And that's not just uploading shows. I mean, you've been re-editing shows and inserting breaks and formatting shows. Yesterday, we all jammed on a short cartoon that we made. I don't know if we want to reveal it, but I guess we could.
And if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. We've done 2 shorts.
One of my ideas for the show was to have Captain 74 show up and show cartoons. And one of the cartoon ideas was to do an animated version of Garfield minus Garfield.
Yeah, I think some night I just randomly had blurted that out as an idea where I was like, I wonder if you could take Garfield and Friends and paint Garfield out and make it like the comic strip from the books. And so we've successfully created 2 Garfield minus Garfield shorts that are pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
John just seems like a raving lunatic.
I mean, not that he's pretty unhinged even when Garfield is there, but yeah it definitely amps that up to like 1,000 when Garfield's not involved in the story.
And we've been doing the watch parties.
Yeah. So we've been filming new stuff every week for double features of Cinema Insomnia episodes.
We'll be shooting a little more
tomorrow.
Well,
today now.
Yes, Insomnia.
And Aaron and I drove across country together.
Yeah.
With a cat.
A cat.
You lucky ducks.
Who's been headbutting my mic. So you may be hearing a little of that.
Soft purring and headbutts.
When the Abes and the apes were starting to take over the planet, I think it was just the apes at that time. But Aaron was having a hard time out there in California. It seemed like you weren't having a good time out there.
I mean, I hadn't been having a good time for a very long time.
And, you know, Aaron was already coming out here.
Yeah, I was coming out for like 3 weeks to a month at a time, probably 4 times a year.
Which honestly was sort of how we made our transition out here, where we were coming out here for 4 or 5 months out of the year, 6 months, until eventually we were spending more time out here than we were spending on the West Coast.
And I felt like it just every time we were you could always tell it was almost time to get Aaron to the airport because this raging migraine would start coming.
Yeah, and he would just sort of like curl into the fetal position on the back seat of the car.
And we would just drop him off of the luggage cart, and they would just take him back to California. And
put him in a wheelchair.
And then because I was bouncing back and forth between Northern and Southern California so much, I know that last year I spent more time here than I did in either one of those places.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, you didn't have a kind of a permanent place to live, too, right? I mean, you were just driving back and forth.
Last year I was mostly in, living-wise, I was basically in LA.
Yeah.
But then a lot of my work ended up being Northern California, and so I'd have to drive up to Northern California, film for a couple days, drive back to LA, and people would
exhausting.
And people would never schedule the stuff so that I could film with 3 or 4 people while I was up there and just get it all out of the way. It was always like, get back to LA, and 2 days later, someone wants me to come back.
Now, Aaron can make that drive in 6 hours or something, which is ridiculous.
I've done it in 4.5.
Oh my God.
That's not even possible.
It's like a 10-hour drive.
But that is for a normal human being with a bladder and a stomach.
Yeah, and that's when I've done it in 4.5 hours, I didn't stop once the whole way. Yeah. And I was probably doing between 100 and 120.
Yeah, nobody.
Because it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
no one's on the
road.
road.
Died.
Yeah,
that's not responsible driving.
Advantage of not caring if you crash and die.
Yes,
you can get places faster.
So, Aaron's demeanor seemed to be getting fairly dark, and it just seemed to
what would that be like?
Yeah, darker than normal.
Yeah,
and
if you've seen the Ricky Gervais show Afterlife, pretty much that. I was getting a lot of concern. People kept going, "Is Aaron okay?" No.
and so, it's one thing, a lot of people, you see people's posts on Facebook and you try to offer them advice and whatever. And it's like, if you're not really, and I'm not saying that this is the case for everyone, but my personal feeling is if you're not willing to actually get involved with that person's life and actually help them, and you're just kind of halfway giving them shitty advice on the internet when they want to kill themselves, I don't know how much good you're really doing. At a certain point, I just figured, Aaron's my friend. I think it's time for him to go. And we just, I flew out.
Room.
We put concrete boots on him and we threw him in the ocean.
It's time for him to go. Get the fuck out of here.
So I flew out there by myself, and then Aaron picked me up at the airport with his cat and his belongings.
Yeah. And they just drove. And right from the airport.
Right from the airport, we just started driving.
I was shocked when I talked to them later that night and they were already on the road. I honestly thought they would stay on the West Coast for at least a night.
Burbank to Amish country in 4.5 days?
Was it even that long?
I think it might have been 3.5.
Yeah.
So
I think we stopped 3 times.
We just blasted through.
They only stopped because the cat wanted to.
Yeah, the cat loves her some Motel 6. So it would get to between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. And most of the time she'd just sit in the back seat behind my seat and just chill. Or if Lobo was driving, she might climb up and get in my lap and just go to sleep. But then once it would get to a certain time of night, then she'd start getting up in my face and start headbutting the shifter and all that. Because she's just like, it is time to stop. I want my Motel 6. And then she would just run around like crazy as soon as we got into the hotel room. And as soon as Lobo would fall asleep, she'd stand on him and just stare at his face.
I kept getting these weird cryptic photographs in the middle of the night of a blurry gray specter sitting on Lobo's hip.
Looming over me, either standing on my chest or standing on my hip. This is the weirdest cat
I was
ever.
going to say, I should preface the fact that we're using cat in the loosest possible way.
This is like a creature.
She's like the thing in Captain Marvel.
Yeah. And she's a bit like a needy little puppy. She really loves to be carried and coddled.
Yeah, she puts her paws up and wants to be picked up.
Yeah, like a toddler.
Like a toddler, yeah. It's really
she likes to be taken out on a leash for walks.
Yeah. And literally yesterday, Lobo and Aaron had to run some errands, and she must have seen Aaron out the window leaving and came screaming down the stairs and through the kitchen trying to get out to them, like screaming, like she was crying because he was leaving, and I had to like comfort her, and then she wouldn't let me put her down. So she's a bizarre little creature. It's been a delight to have her as part of the household.
So Aaron's been out here, and Stray the cat has been out here, much to the dismay of Garbage Cat.
Yeah, Garbage
Cat's not a fan.
Hates Stray. We actually had to take a squirt gun and we have to blast her with water every time
Baby cat doesn't know where it's coming from, but she knows that every time she starts a fight, her face gets wet.
Yeah.
So we're trying to wean her off of that behavior.
So
that's really the big drama in our home right now.
Cats.
Is the cat's not really getting along, but everything else has been harmony.
And then the channel.
Oh God, yeah.
Because for a while there was this whole stuff between Roku and the provider that we would serve all our material on, where it was like every 3 days everything would get thrown in disarray, nothing would work, and then we'd get everything changed over the way it would work again. They'd immediately change it again, so all the shows would disappear off the channel.
It's a nightmare.
And so we had to migrate it completely somewhere else to get it working.
Yeah, the streaming wars are on, and I think we are a casualty of those streaming wars. Although right now everything is working, so visit OSI 74 and get to see all of Aaron's hard work and all of Dixie's hard work and whatever I do. The waitress, it looks like she is materializing here. I thought I saw Paul briefly trying to wink in. I guess he was trying to cut in, but he never got his VR headset working. But it looks like our breakfast is here. So we're going to take a break and eat our food. Thank you, Dixie. Thank you, Aaron. Why don't we meet here again sometime, huh?
Sure.
Thanks.
Hello, fellow food lovers. I'm Phil Mignon, world-famous gourmet. In my travels, I've sampled some of the most exquisite foods the world has to offer. That's why they've asked me to tell you all about a charming new eatery located right downtown. As you can see, the atmosphere is lovely. But, of course, the finest attribute of this quaint cafe is the marvelous cuisine.
By the way, what is the special ingredient in the Tuesday surprise?
If I told you that, it wouldn't be a surprise anymore, would it?
They're, mouth-watering specialties. Will have you, as they say, licking your lips. Only the freshest natural ingredients are selected.
The first ingredients we need are 2 stomachs from a couple of friends.
For use in their carefully guarded recipe.
I'd give my right arm for that secret recipe.
Yes, the chef puts a bit of himself into every succulent dish. And he's always pleased to serve you to your friend. Shouldn't that be serve you and your friend? No. Your gracious hostess will direct you to your table, where you will dine as if there's no tomorrow. So, breeze on down and don't let anything stand in your way. This Epicurean haven is called Blood Diner.
You got that right, Homo.
So, this is Phil Mignon. Saying bon appetit. Oh, Mommy.
The Blood Diner. First they greet you, then they eat you. No one under 17 admitted.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Oh, hi, Paul. Sorry. Aaron and Dixie had to wink out of our VR experience, but Miss Mittens and I are still here, and why don't you have a seat and join us here at the diner? We're just finishing up.
Sorry it took a little bit too long. It took, I had to fix this wiring and stuff like that. And then I had a little bit of chronic diarrhea, not the code word, but the actual chronic diarrhea.
Oh.
So it took me a little bit to
see.
take care of the rumblies and the tumblies.
So you had more than just a loose wire. You were loose all over.
Yeah, there's you better believe it, buddy.
Boy. You know, it's been kind of a crazy, you know, we've all been talking about what we've been doing the past year. Miss Mittens had a rough year. She was yammering on and on and on and on about all her problems. And, you know, you were gone for a year. I know you took some time off, you know, and I know a lot of people ask about it. Beginning of 2019, right?
By the end of that time, I was producing 3 shows. Creative Continuity, cos-tunes, Mr. Lobo does on my channel alone. Then we were doing the podcast. Then we were doing...
We were doing the podcast. We were doing the unboxing, reboxing.
We were doing all this stuff. I mean, that stuff sat on hard drives. I mean, that stuff never even saw the light of day. I had no time for it. You know, we were doing Cinema Insomnia episodes, and it just got to be a little bit too much all at once, and it just got to a point where it's like I gotta take a little bit of a break. I gotta get away from all this and kind of clear my head and take a different look at all this. And stuff from like the YouTube end where it's like, you know, there's one that here's like this show where it's like I like doing. There's this show that was okay, but it just never really reached that peak of, you know, viewership. If you want to judge it by viewership, it's like it never really got the views that I wanted. So versus how much time it took to build something like that. There was one show that I absolutely loved producing, but it got to a point that I was shooting this show. You know, we were going. You know, I was going to conventions 2 times a month on average.
I mean, that was expensive, right, Paul? I mean, for you to create those shows,
it was expensive. It was, you know, I mean, like I was creatively satisfied. I was happy with those things creatively, but you know, that particular show, I kind of knew that there was kind of an end to the road to it. That's kind of why I chose how to produce that show. Was that I knew that there was eventually going to have to be an ending because there's only so many ways you could skin a cat. And it's just like, I think it just kind of got to that point where it's like, I can walk away from this now. You know, if I want to go back to it and produce an occasional show, that's fine. You know, Creative Continuity, you know, the other show I was referring to as cos-tunes, the cosplay stuff. Creative Continuity, I think I want to retool and actually do in a different way. Because that's the one that I just don't feel never really got the viewership. It never really got to the people that I think would love that video. You know, love what we were doing.
I think that we have some really great interviews on Creative Continuity. I just feel like YouTube might not be the audience for that.
I don't think so either. And I kind of been bouncing around. I mean, and technically after Harold left Creative Continuity, which would be at the end of season 3, I was kind of done, and then you were the one that talked me into doing season 4. I was like, well, let's give this one more shot. I was like, sure, why not? You know, we're already going to these shows. Might as well give it one more year, one more season. And it was not your fault. It wasn't my fault. It just doesn't seem like it was getting to the people that I think it needed to get to. And it was always on the table of how I wanted to kind of redo that series as something different and something longer and something that just doesn't end up on YouTube. It's just something that may end up elsewhere where people can actually appreciate it.
And I think Mr. Lobo does too. I mean, that's something that I really enjoyed, that you really enjoyed, that was creatively really satisfying. But I still don't think it's found its audience yet. And I don't think it's the quality of the material. I just think that we just haven't found the right format or the right platform yet.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like it's the same way where it just doesn't hit that audience. And I don't know, like with that's one of the shows that's still carrying over where it's like I want to continue with season 2, but I think we have to look at maybe a physical media audience, or maybe we have to look at maybe, you know, a couple extra bucks and going the Amazon route if we can, or if we can get, you know, you said it yourself that we kind of, season 1's kind of a proof of concept where we can present it to, say, a Netflix or such, that we can maybe have it strictly on there for X amount of months or years or whatnot before it goes anywhere else.
Yeah, there may be a streaming outlet that's looking for a show, and we can show them this and say, hey, you know, this works, you know, this is something that we've created. We can expand this into more of an episodic show.
And I mean, with Mr. Lobo Does, it was something that I kind of want to test physical media with anyway, and that's a perfect show that we can test with, because a lot of the other stuff, there was kind of some issues that would come up where somebody's like, well, if you show this, then blah, 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 you might see legal actions. Whereas Mr. Lobo Does is something 100% we do. And I think we have a little bit more freedom when it comes to like physical media. And a lot of stuff that I've read is like, well, even though we live in an age of streaming, there are still people out there that like and enjoy streaming media, or physical media rather. That people want that actual disc that's on their wall or whatnot. Even though they can go to YouTube and watch it for free, they still want that. Even if it's not to watch it, is to support the artist. And I think we might have that.
Well, and I think that if the Cinema Insomnia DVDs are any indication, I mean, even though I don't sell nearly as many DVDs as we used to back in the heyday of DVDs, you certainly get a lot more bang for your buck if you've got one person who's going to pay a premium price for a premium product. That's one person who's, even on the low end DVDs like the Alpha DVDs that are at the $8 level, that's one viewer giving you $8 instead of having 800 viewers giving you a penny a piece or something to make $8. 800
viewers, you're very gracious. That's like 700 more viewers than what we normally get.
So, I think that again, it's definitely finding the audience that appreciates you the most and maybe trying to, not to make it so all about money. It's certainly, I say this, a joke all the time, is that if it were all about money, we would be doing something a lot smarter. This is something that's very meaningful to us and something that we do get a lot out of creatively, but at a certain point, it's like, we want to do more with it and we want to be able to keep doing it. And it takes, even though it looks fun and it looks spontaneous, it takes a lot of work to do this stuff. And so, for us to keep doing it, we've got to find a revenue stream from somewhere to support it.
Yeah, if I do this thing for YouTube and hope to get paid, it's creatively satisfying, but it's not keeping my lights on. I'm still at my age paying the government for my college loans for a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
That there's no, how do I pay that stuff when I'm not bringing stuff in or not working at McDonald's, which was one of the options that we always threw around, is like
rob a bank or work at McDonald's. That's every creative person's option, right? There's nothing having your dream job. You either get your dream job, right, or you rob a bank, or you work at McDonald's.
There's nothing in between. None of the other equations. And it's just kind of like after I took that time off to clear my head, coming back, somebody told me, I don't know who told me this, but somebody said that the key to this is working smarter and not necessarily working harder. We're working harder, but not necessarily working smarter.
That sounds like a very wise man who said that.
I have no idea what kind of jackass would tell me that, but I'm trying to build off of that.
Yeah, and I feel like we're starting to be a little smarter. Like, I feel like actually the way we've been running these watch parties has paid off for us. As I mentioned at the beginning of this program, where we're finding the more activated people who are supporting the show and want us to make new episodes. And I feel like with what we've been doing with the Sleepless Nights podcast by going to Patreon is that, we are finding those people who want to support this and want to further this and see the value in it, and that little bit of money coming in definitely makes it so much easier to keep going with it.
And I think what the idea of them doing the Mr. Lobo Does as DVDs is kind of the version of working smarter, whereas I hope to at least generate enough income to at least seed the financial part of season 2 of Mr. Lobo Does.
Yeah, I think the DVD might even be a good premium for some sort of crowdfunding platform. I don't want to name drop like GoFundMe or Kickstarter, but whatever we decide to do with it, I think a DVD might be a good tier for something like that.
And I mean, and we never really talked about this, but there's also the VOD. There's the Mr. Lobo Does on VOD that has the extra content as well.
Yeah, and again, maybe VOD, Vimeo VOD is not the ideal place for that too. There might be a better place.
It might be Amazon. We might have to come up with the funds for the subtitling and just do Amazon and just go that route.
Yeah, exactly.
As much as Amazon and I have brushed shoulders quite a bit.
Yeah,
I know.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that we've got Cinema Insomnia. I didn't mention this at the beginning of the program, but we've got 4 Cinema Insomnia episodes on Amazon and 19 episodes on Amazon UK. And every time somebody watches those videos, it's not a lot of money, but it is a little bit of money coming in from those videos. And we've actually had people pay to own those videos via Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, much more sane and reasonable than any of our experiences with YouTube. But I think there's nothing wrong with the content. But, we're living in a world where we've got these crazy gatekeepers who are managing all the content. And it's very, very hard for independents to to sustain themselves and to keep creating. I, for one, am glad that you're back, Paul, and that you're creating. It's great to see the stuff that you've been putting together. I think the editing on some of the reboxing videos that have been coming out are hilarious. I think the podcast, the amount of work that you put into editing and polishing this turd that we call the podcast, when it comes out, when that Lincoln log drops, it always sounds so much better than it does when we were recording it. So there's a lot of work that goes in there, and I feel like, a creative person, if they've got a talent, that they should share it, that it's something that, and I think people need creativity in their lives. I think we need creativity in our lives and to keep doing what we're doing. And I think that everyone needs creativity in their lives, whether it's their own creativity or whether it's listening or enjoying or watching someone else's creativity. So hopefully we can all, with all this amount of chronic diarrhea that's been happening, I think people maybe are valuing entertainment more, valuing art more, and perhaps, all
that stuff is essential as well.
Yeah, and I feel like, this might be an opportunity for us to take the time to kind of build that relationship with the audience so that we're all happy.
Sure.
So
it looks like the bill just came in. So how do we pay this thing?
Oh yeah, let me look at the check here. Of course, Aaron and Dixie cut out. Let's see. This is a diner, right? So I guess it wouldn't be chimp bucks or Lincoln Loot. It'd probably be like what, bread or cabbage or
dough,
rolls,
chips. Do I pay for my tenderloins with tender?
Sausage coins, coins in cabbage.
Gravy.
Oh, ooh, you put some gravy. Yeah, put a little gravy in that dish with the check. No, I feel like since this is like a virtual diner, it would be some sort of technological thing, like I don't know, like Bitcoin.
Well, how about Bytecoin?
Bytecoin, yeah, Bytecoin. That sounds good. All right. Well, how about you pay the check and I'll leave the tip?
Oh, that's gross.
You have been listening to the Sleepless Nights podcast, or should we say pODDcast?
pODDcast.
Emphasis on the odd. Our theme is by Mars Homeworld at Deadhouse Music. Our opening announcement is by Ophelia Necro. She does a radio show called Suicide Watch. And you could reach Mr. Lobo at cinemainsomnia.com or find me on YouTube, YouTube/Mr. Lobo, MISTERLOBO. Mr. Lobo on Facebook, Facebook/MR.LOBO, or on Twitter, at Mr. Lobo, MISTERLOBO.
Or you can find myself, Paul Sanders, or better known as Bestow TV, at bestow.tv. On YouTube /BestowTV, on Twitter at BestowProd, PROD, and on Facebook, Bestow TV.
If you want to place an advertisement with this podcast, and gosh, why wouldn't you? We could be talking about you right now. Contact us, Mr. Lobo at cinemainsomnia.com. That's MRLOBO @CINEMAINSOMNIA.com. Or support us on Patreon. Patreon supporters get to hear this podcast before anyone else and a lot of other great stuff, right, Paul?
Sure.
Doesn't get it better than that, right? So come join the fun at
patreon.com/Sleepless Nights Podcast.
That's
patreon.com/Sleepless Nights Podcast.
Please stay up with us next week for another Sleepless Nights podcast. Or should we say, pODDcast.
Podcast.
The best thing about being an insomniac is never having to say goodnight.
Good night.